Growing up as an only child, I was always a homebody and relied very heavily on my parents. I had a very hard time doing things independently, and even when I moved across the country from Maine to come to college here in Arizona, I still struggled to adjust to doing things on my own. Deciding to study abroad at 18 was the first step toward becoming more self-sufficient. I flew out of Boston by myself and arrived in London, where I made my way to our flats on my own. The first couple of days were difficult for me because I was overwhelmed with all the opportunities that were ahead of me. After the first week, I began to feel more confident in my abilities to navigate the city and became accustomed to the landmarks that I would pass every day that signified that I was home. As I began to recognize more and more landmarks around the city, I became more confident in my ability to navigate it on my own and decided to start exploring more. One day, I decided to get on the tube and see where it took me, and discovered many beautiful locations in London that I hadn't realized existed. With this newfound sense of independence, I decided to take the jump and bought a train ticket to visit Felixstowe, a coastal town in the United Kingdom where my grandparents lived for some time after World War II. I had 2 connecting stops at different train stations before I finally made it to Felixstowe. Once I got there, the first thing I did was find my way to the house my grandparents once lived in. Since I didn't have my usual cell phone crutch to guide me, I had to rely on my memory and navigation skills to find their home. After about a 15-minute walk, I made it to the coast as well as their house. After arriving at the house, I sent a photo of the home to my grandmother, who pleasantly informed me that nothing had changed since they lived there all those years ago. After taking some photos and FaceTiming with them so they could experience it with me, I still had about 2 hours before I had to make my way back to the train station. In those couple of hours, I enjoyed, in typical English fashion, fish and chips on the beach while taking in the culture of the small English town. When it was time for me to leave, I made my way back to the train station without my GPS and hopped on the train to London. 2 years later, this is still my favorite memory from my study abroad program because not only did I get the chance to make my grandparents' day, but because it proved to me that I was capable of doing things on my own. As I approach my last year as an undergraduate student, I have been looking into potential graduate schools that offer programs in sports psychology. When I first began searching, I thought moving back to New England was what I wanted. As I searched for programs, one program stood out to me and would later become my top choice grad school: the University of Roehampton in London. If someone had asked me 3 years ago if I would consider going to school outside the US, I would have thought they were crazy. Now, because of my study abroad experience, the thought of becoming an international student is exciting, and I can't wait to continue to grow with this next experience.